Okay, welcome to day 2 of the 18860 Ravenstar Robotics FTC camp. So first we are going to present building. So this is our robot from last season. We had our REV frame with the Tetrix intake, and the shooter was a REV motor. And here we can see multiple pictures of our final robot. On the top left is our shooter, and on the top right side and the top middle, you can see our intake system, and on the bottom left, you can see the bottom of our robot along with the camera that we used for a sensor. So, building basics. For building the robot, you will have various part types, such as Tetrix and REV parts. When building the robot, you want to make sure that you have a good frame that can fit all the attachments that you will need to complete the missions, and that the frame is within the 18 by 18 by 18 inch size limitation for the matches. In addition to this, you will need a plan where you're going to put sensors, as they are helpful during autonomous in the matches, to determine where your robot is on the field. There are 5 main companies that people on FTC can use, and they are REV, Tetrix, Gobilda, Vex, and Animark. And you can control your robot using a Logitech F310 controller. So we're going to look at the pros of multiple brands of FTC parts. So some of the pros of REV parts is that the motors are faster than Tetrix, but in addition to that, they're more likely to burn out from extended use. Also, the extrusions are more customizable on where you attach other parts, and the parts take up less space when making the frame. Also, you can buy individual parts for REV when they are needed if you're missing certain parts for building the robot, and because of the wide variety of options when building with REV parts, you have to plan out more ahead of time than Tetrix because of how many different opportunities there are for building. So some of the benefits of Tetrix parts is that they have more force than REV parts, but in addition to that, they also move slower. The speed issue can be solved by increasing the gear ratio by using gears or a gearbox to make it spin faster. Another advantage to Tetrix parts is that they have an adjustable motor mount, meaning you can make it so that motors on both sides of the robot can align better. And also, it's the easiest part for beginners to use to build the frame of the robot. Some of the benefits of Gobilda parts is that Gobilda has plenty of shaft, ball bearing, and pillow lock options. The motors can face mount natively into a channel, eliminating the need for motor mounts and providing a robust, reliable way to mount motors. Gobilda also has some special parts that are unavailable in other systems, like square beams, and Gobilda is also able to interface with Tetrix channels because they share the same screw holes. Now we're going to look at the cons of the 3 brands of parts. Some of the cons we'll be talking about is REV. REV parts are generally good, however the plastic parts that are used are most of the time cheap, which makes it so that when they're repeatedly used under weight, they bend, making them unusable. Another minor issue is that the basic extrusions for a REV are bendy and weak, and if you're going to use REV, then make sure that you prioritize metal parts over the plastic ones. Because if you use the plastic ones, they will end up breaking. Also, the REV motors are more likely to burn out because of how fast they move, and for the fact that the screws that are installed in the REV motors are very similar to some Tetrix screws that can be easily mixed up. And if the wrong screws are screwed in, then the motor will end up rattling, which will slowly break it. Tetrix has many cons that overturn some of the pros. Tetrix's worst issue is part selection, because there is simply not a large enough library of Tetrix parts. Designing with Tetrix, you'll constantly be looking for a part that just doesn't exist for Tetrix. And it ends up limiting your overall design to basically whatever Tetrix will enable you to do. The other major pitfall of Tetrix is that it's just low quality, which leads to another issue. Tetrix is very expensive to the relatively medium cost to low quality of parts, because the metal parts, because if they're under extreme pressure, can break. And also, if you don't design the robot correctly, so where the weight of the robot is evenly spread out across the robot, then the metal parts can end up breaking if all the weight's put on one point. Gobilda is one of the best part manufacturers to get parts for FTC, but the major con is that it is the most expensive part. This is overridden by the fact that it is worth the cost because because it is very efficient for how much it costs and it has a wide variety of options. And in addition to that, it's very durable. So one of the most important parts of building is documentation, because when building the robot, it's important that you document every stage of building with pictures and written info that describes why you designed the robot, how you did, and how it functions. You will have to be prepared to answer the judge's questions on why you chose a certain design for the robot and where you drew your inspiration from for your design. When you have to start building, make sure that you have an idea on the design you're going to build and how it will accomplish the missions or tasks that are present. Some of the tips and tricks that will make your life easier when building is that make sure that correct set screws are installed in every axle hub, motor hub, or axle collar, because if they're not the correct ones, they can end up either coming loose, rattling, slowly bending the part, or just breaking like the motor. Make sure that all assemblies are square, because it's hard to drive a robot that is not in a square or brick-ish shape because of how the motors and wheels have to line up with each other. When building, make sure that each part of the robot or section of the robot is the same brand. Like you can make the intake one brand and the frame another brand, but make sure like the frames are made out of two brands. Otherwise, the robot will be rattly and it's more likely to break apart because it most likely would not be mounted together correctly. Also, make sure that all your robot parts are mounted with 2 points of contact, because 2 points of contact is the best way to make sure that your robot is less likely to rattle and or fall apart. And make sure that all screws are tightened, because if a screw is not fully tightened in, then it will slowly unscrew when the robot dries because of how much it wobbles. And also, be creative. You can draw inspiration from other teams, but do not copy any other teams because that's against Grace's professionalism and it's just not a good role model. So what you can do is you can like copy the general gist, like you intake and shoot from the same side, but you can add your own unique spin, like how you intake or how the actual shooter works. So now, before we start the Kahoot, we're gonna have a Q&A. See if you have any questions. If you have any questions, you can either unmute or answer or ask in chat. Asking in chat is the easiest way. Do you have any questions for building? FTC stands for First Tech Challenge. So if we have no more questions, then we should be moving on to the Kahoot.
So now we will play Kahoot to test your knowledge on building of what we've covered in the presentation. So go to kahoot.it and wait for us to screen share the code, then join the game. Kahoot. Please join this code.
And also, preferably join with your real name, or at least not any annoying nicknames.
Yeah, I'll wait until like 3:17. I'm going to remove these nuts, please. So. Okay, so I think we can. Pierce, you want to explain them?
Okay, so the size limitation for doing the robot matches is 18 by 18 inches. And they can test this because they have a box that they can put over your robot and see if your robot fits inside of it. That, granted, even before that's before the match. Once the match starts, your robot can unravel to be longer than those dimensions.
Yeah, maybe some of you that picked feet got confused with the inches. Just pay attention to the questions. Because 18 by 18 by 18 feet would be humongous. Good job, Anna. So, looks like most of you got these right. Pierce will explain.
For REV Parts, it's one of the only brands where instead of buying the bulk package, which includes pretty much all of the parts, you can buy each part individually, which is pretty unique. Also, the motors are fast. They're like almost the fastest motor, but if you use the motors a lot, they're more likely to burn out than almost all the other motors. And also, the main bars that are used to make up the chassis are the thinnest of most of the other brands, meaning they take up less space than like Tetrix, for example.
Pierce is on top. Pierce, are you playing the game?
Yes, because why not?
Okay.
So Tetrix motors, because of how the bars are made, Tetrix bars, they can easily attach each other because they have plenty of options for screwing with each other. And the motors have a mounting plate that makes it so you can adjust the height and the horizontal plane of where they are. And also, their motors, even though they're slower than REV motors, they have more force than them. And they're actually one of the least complex, the least building materials they use. That's why it's the best for beginners to make the frame out of. Because you can make a frame in like 10 minutes if we're just screwing it together.
And Pierce is still on top by a good margin.
For this, Gobilda is one of the most expensive part brands because of their wide selection and because of how durable and reliable the parts are. And also how uniquely made some of the parts are, of how they're the only company that has certain parts, like certain unique parts that other companies don't have.
But good job. All of you, almost all of you got this right. Yes, Elon Musk's son is here.
This is just logic, because if the motors are not aligned with each other, then it's going to be harder to drive the robot straight, or control it in general, of like turning right and left, than actually shooting and stuff.
Okay, let's see if Elon Musk's son is still here. Okay, he's still there.
The reason why most of the REV extrusions are bendy and weak is because they are made out of plastic, which means that they simply, even if they are screwed in tightly, they will bend because they're not made out of metal, and they will slowly wear down, and if they can possibly snap if too much pressure is being applied to them, like horizontally or sideways.
The leaderboard didn't change at all. Good job, sub 2 techno blah. Wait, Pierce, you're playing, right? Okay, that means sub 2 techno blah is technically the winner. Because we don't count you.
Yeah, he's just the winner.
Yeah. It's technically cheating, Pierce.
So documentation of the robot is one of the most important parts, is because it's used for engineering notebook and presenting to the judges why you built your robot a certain way. In addition to that, it's also follow-up judging. That's literally just about why you built your robot, how you did, and how your robot actually functions.
So sub 2 techno blah is still first place.
Yeah, because if the screws in the robot are not tightened fully, then they have a chance of becoming unscrewed and the robot may start slowly falling apart.
Sub 2 techno blah is still in the lead, but burying Elon Musk's son is close behind.
For a part to be securely tightened onto the robot, it needs at least 2 points of contact, but more can never hurt unless it gets in the way of the function. The reason why 2 is because if you have 1 point, then an axle will usually just turn like that. If you have 2 points, then it's actually stable. Also, if secured from both sides, then it has no chance at wobbling out or falling out from either direction.
Barry took the lead. The finale. Inside the ultimate building FTC robotics champion.
Your robot doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly square, but in general, keeping it in a cube or square shape will just make it function better because you can fit all the attachments in the area and it won't be curved when driving or anything. If you do make a robot curved, it's more likely to turn, like not drive straight, and or you won't have enough room to attach all the attachments you need, like a claw, gripper, shooter, all those types of things.
Good job, Elon Musk, son. You can send us millions now. Alright, so Pierce doesn't count. Good job, Barry. Congrats, Barry. Great. So before we go to programming and the tutorial, does anybody have any questions about building? Um, all right, somebody entered the waiting room. 1 second. Okay, so I think we're gonna just go back to the presentation if nobody has any other questions.
If there's no more questions, then we're gonna move on to the next part of the camp.
Okay, let me share my screen. So, wait a minute. I think it's okay. All right. So now we're gonna do programming.
Now we will move on to programming. Programming basics. Programming is quite useful in robotics, especially FTC. What is programming? Programming is a set of steps that consists of designing and building a computer program to accomplish a specific result or to perform a specific task. An easy way to think of it is a comparison to a computerized algorithm. An IDE, Integrated Development Environment, is a software where you can write and test code. Although there are many different programming languages and IDEs, most FTC teams use Java as their programming language and Android Studio or Onboard Java as their IDE, as they are the most common IDEs for FTC. Software and types. There are 3 different types of coding for FTC. Each type has its advantages and disadvantages. Blocks. Rookie teams, newer and less advanced teams, use block programming because it doesn't require much experience and updates directly into the robot. Onboard Java. Onboard Java is a type of coding for FTC where you use text-based coding that updates into the robot directly. Android Studio. Android Studio is good for advanced teams who would like to use more advanced features. There are 2 types of programming: line programming, Line programming is the process of converting digital data to digital signals. An example of an encoded digital signal is a system.out_print, which converts whatever after it into a string. Block programming. Block programming is basically block coding, which is pretty much the same as line coding but made for more beginner minds. Unlike line coding, programming lines is put onto blocks and connected. This is much simpler and easier to remember than line coding. You can think of FTC block coding as an advanced version of Scratch. Primitive data type. A primitive data type specifies the size and type of variable values, and it has no additional methods. There are 8 primitive data types in Java. All of these primitive data types are listed below, and they're converted into data type, size, and range. Non-primitive data types. Non-primitive data types are called reference types because they refer to objects. The main difference between primitive and non-primitive data types are primitive data types are predefined in Java. This means that they're already defined and already set in Java. Non-primitive data types are also created by the programmer and is not defined by Java, except for string. Non-primitive data types can be used to call methods to perform certain operations, but primitive types cannot. A primitive data type has always a value, while non-primitive data types can be 0 or hold no value. A primitive data type starts with a lowercase letter, while non-primitive data types start with an uppercase letter. The size of a primitive data type depends on the data type, while non-primitive data types all have the same size. Examples of non-primitive data types are strings, arrays, classes, interface, and etc. Java operators. Operators are used to perform operations on variables and values. There are 4 basic types of operators in Java. Java arithmetic operators, Java assignment operators, Java comparison operators, and Java logical operators. Java arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators are used to perform common mathematical operations. The table below lists the operators, the name, and its description, and they all contain the common mathematical operations. Please note that PEMDAS and the order of operations do not apply to most programming languages, including Java within arithmetic operators. Instead of using PEMDAS, the equation is taken from left to right. Java assignment operators. Assignment operators are used to assign values to variables. The table below also lists the operators, the example in variable format, and what it's similar to in equations. Java comparison operators. Comparison operators are used to compare 2 values. The table above shows all the operators, descriptions, and their examples in using variables. Java logical operators. Logical operators are used to determine the logic between variables or values. The table above lists the operators, the text meaning of the variables, the operators, and the description of the operators. Now we will move on to line coding. Strings are used for storing text. A string variable contains a collection of characters surrounded by double quotes. Here's an example of a variable called introduction that stores hello. You can also print a statement in Java. Printing a statement means to display whatever statement you have to the output terminal. Every programmer, whether a beginner or an advanced programmer, will print hello world as a statement to test and see if their program and IDE is working correctly. Here is how to print hello world. In the first image shows the input and the second image shows the output display. Comments. Comments are used to explain Java code and to make it more readable. Single-line comments start with 2 forward slashes. An example is shown below. The first line will not be read into the program because it is a comment. Multi-line comments start with a forward slash and then asterisk and ends with an asterisk and a forward slash. Any text between these two characters will be ignored by Java. An example is shown below. The first and second lines are ignored because they are comments.
So now we're going to begin the actual Java tutorial. So let me escape. Okay. All right. So right. So go to replit.it. So I'm gonna log out so I can show you what you'll be seeing. So all right, I'm gonna post this in the chat. You'll see. So go to replit.com and put in the chat when you've got to this page. Okay, thank you, Lucas, for saying. Okay. Just wait a few more seconds for everybody to be able to click on the link. I'm gonna repost it. Okay, it seems like everybody is there. If you're not there, then just put in the chat and I can wait a little bit. So basically in the top right corner, you're going to see login and sign up. So if you don't have an account, you're gonna click sign up and then you're gonna sign this up and you'll probably have to get an email and stuff. Or you can just log in with Google. I already have an account, so I'm going to log in. So I'm just gonna log in with Google. You can do that also. So after you log in, you should see this page. So I'm gonna give everybody a few minutes to get to this page, log in or sign up. So I think we can. I think I'll start at 3:40. So that gives 2 minutes. As we've done before, please put in the chat when you've got to this page. Samuel, yeah, you can sign up with Google. Personally, that is the easiest way for me. All right, thank you, Yuji. Wait, Samuel, what do you mean there's a 3-minute video? Like, if there's a video, just ignore it, yeah, just ignore it. I think it might be for people who just signed up, so yeah. Just like maybe exit out, I don't know what it is, so. Okay, so, Aroki mode, so what page are you on? So let me go to another screen. So look at my screen, all right? So you're going to see this page, all right? And then you're going to click sign up here, all right? And you're going to fill it out, all right? And then you're going to click sign up. Or you can try clicking on Google and you can try logging in that way. Is anybody else except Yuji in Replit? Okay, good. I'm just gonna wait a few more minutes because it seems like not everybody is still there. Arohi, did your thing get fixed yet?
Nope.
Okay. Wait, Svea, what do you mean your screen is white? Like completely white? Or like this white? Okay, I think I'll wait till 3:45. Or okay, so I'm gonna turn off my camera. 1 sec.
Wait, Arnav, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. All right, so basically, when you get to your screen, you're gonna see 3 buttons up here. So you're gonna click them, and then you'll see a bunch of tabs, all right? So you're gonna click the first one. Now we're gonna put in Java. Make sure you put in Java only with the teacup thing and nothing else. So here we're gonna put FTC Robotics Camp. And now we're gonna click Create REPL. So I'm gonna wait a few more seconds for everybody to do that. Please put in the chat if you're having any troubles or if you got to this screen. Oh, okay, so, sure. I think I might have gone there too fast. So you see my screen there, all right? All right, so you would see this, right? So the 3 buttons at the top left. So these things here. So basically, I'm gonna annotate it. So right there's gonna be 3 buttons. So I'm gonna click them. So is everybody clear with that? All right, so after we're here, you're going to click new REPL. So this blue button. Yuji, your background noise was really loud. Can you repeat that? Or you can like put in the chat because like I couldn't hear you. Oh, okay. So hopefully everybody's clicked these 3 buttons. Now we're going to click new REPL. So you're going to see something like this. Here you're going to click Java. Java. So make sure you click Java and you don't click Node.js, JavaScript, just plain Java. So, and what I was saying before is we're gonna say FTC Robotics Camp program. So now we're gonna click create REPL. So you should see this screen. That's how I did it. Is that like clear, or are you still confused? Okay, good. So I'm going to wait a couple minutes for everybody to get to this page. If you were wondering, you put Java in the programming language, then you put FTC Robotics Camp programming, or you can really title it whatever you want actually. So, but I mean, I just titled it what it was. So I'm just going to wait till let's see, 3:49. Wait, Samuel, I'm excited. A new coding web that, yeah. Yeah, so what we're gonna be covering in the tutorial isn't gonna be really complicated, so yeah. Oh, no, I said it wasn't complicated. It's very simple, like, yeah. So I'm just gonna wait half a minute. Actually, I'm gonna wait till 3:50. I think people might be new to this. So yeah, 3:50. In the chat, put if you're if you're there. Okay, it looks like everybody's now there, so let's go back to the presentation. Oh wait, I turned my camera off, sorry. So now let's go to the next slide. So this is code that uses Java operators. So we've talked before that these are arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators use like mathematical symbols. So like plus, minus, multiplication, or asterisk. So like in Java and most programming languages, you would use an asterisk. And we use a slash for division. So let's talk about what this line does. So what this line does is that it says system.out.println. This is basically telling Java that you're going to print out what is in these parentheses, and you're going to put a semicolon. So the semicolon tells the computer that that's the end of the code. So that's the end of the statement. So if you looked at the 2 slides back, when we put how to print out hello, we put quotation marks. We don't do that here because you only put quotation marks for strings. So strings in Java are words in normal human English. So yeah. So if we put this in REPL, it would actually do the math. It would print out the math. So let's go and actually do that. So let me exit this. All right, so make sure put system.out.println. So double check that you have like you have spelled this correctly, and make sure not to delete these things for this session. So, and now we're going to put in parentheses. So now before we do arithmetic operators, let's just print out a normal statement. Oh, sorry. So let's put a quotation marks. Let's print out a string. So FTC, oops, is great. Now, as you can see, I haven't put a semicolon after this. So I did that on purpose because I want to show you what happens if you don't put a semicolon. Okay, check in the chat. Anybody has any problems? Okay. Please be patient because like we said with Tinkercad, REPL is a browser based thing, so it's going to be a little slow. But it usually just from the start usually be slow. So please be patient. Wait, are yours guys being this slow or okay, I'm gonna stop this program. Okay, good. Okay, that's good. It might okay, finally worked. Great. So basically, as you can see, it didn't print out anything. Because this computer doesn't know where the end of the statement is. It doesn't know. So let's put in a semicolon and it's going to work. It's going to print out FTC is great. But for some reason, yeah. So I've heard like someone of a wise man once told me that the reason for all these things are Java's just weird, all right? Like, as we go on through the tutorial, you'll see a lot of things that just don't make sense. But, I mean, it's just there. You just got to learn to deal with it. I think mine might be slower than your guys's because I'm sharing and recording at the same time. So, yeah. All right, so as you can see, it finally printed out. FTC is great. So in the chat, oh, good job. Like you guys worked great. So as we talked before, let's how to comment out things. So these are one line. Yeah, that is true. That is true. In the chat, what's me put? So since this is one line comment, remember what we said in the earlier slides, we're going to put 2 slashes. So if this was a multi-line comment we wanted to comment out, we would put a slash and then an asterisk, and then we would do an asterisk and a slash. This is just one line. And so comments basically they can help a lot because they tell what part of the code does what, and also it also skips that part of the code. So if this is some unused code but you don't want to get rid of it, then you can just leave it there and it's going to skip. So I'm just going to delete this from the purpose of trying to not make it slow by anything. So oh yeah. So let's do some math with it. So let's do system.out.println. Now you can do whatever you want really, but oh yeah, remember, don't put quotation marks for math. So I'm gonna just put 1 + 1. Right, I know. Okay, so Aroy, can you copy paste what you put inside there into the chat, because I think it must have been just like a little spelling mistake or something. So it's taking quite a while. Okay, so Aroki, can you try not putting the exclamation mark? Just try deleting the exclamation mark. Also, don't put a space between the parentheses and system.out.println. Keep them like close. Don't put a space between them. I think that's the main problem. Cheyenne, yep, that's correct. All right. So, oh, it loaded faster this time. So basically, it printed out 2 because so this is what, see, it can do math. It's pretty cool. All right. So yeah. Fine, for just fun, I'm just gonna put a random number, put slightly bigger equation, and put that. Yeah, a Rebel can be a slow calculator. Yeah. I think one person just joined, so the person who joined, so go to repl.it and if you have any questions how to do it, just ask one of our members. You can ask like Smeeth or Ishrat, I think. Anybody really. So as you can see, it printed out 22944. So let's just get into our browser and let's check with the slightly faster calculator. So it does say indeed 22944. So this proves that REPL knows what it's doing. So let's comment this out just for practice. Okay, I'm gonna delete this because it's slow for me. Great. Let's go to the next slide. So now we're going to do creating and printing variables. So this is the format for creating a variable. So a variable just means that there's going to be a variable, and that variable will equal a value. So basically, how to make a variable equal a value, you're going to put this format. So you're going to put int. So we're gonna, in this example, we're gonna say int. So because the value we want to create is an integer, so we're gonna say int as our data type. Then we're gonna put whole number as our variable name. I just put that randomly. Equals value. So I want whole number to equal 7, and then semicolon to tell the system to that's the end of the statement. So remember, it's not going to do anything if we don't print it out. So basically, you'll see this a lot more later in the presentation, but you have to system.out.println, you just have to print out the variable name. So system.out.println whole number, which is our variable name, and it should print out 7 because we're printing out whole number. And we've assigned earlier here that whole number is an integer and whole number equals 7. So let's go to REPL. So I'm going to use the example on the slide. So I'm going to put whole number equals, and I'm going to put in random numbers there. And then I'm going to print it out. Oh, somebody else joined. All right, so for the people who are joining, okay, wait, is the person in? Okay, so for the people who are joining, just ask one of our members for what we're doing and they'll gladly help you out. So don't put a quotation because this is not a string. This is a variable. Even though it looks like a string, it's still a variable, so, and it equals a number, so that's why we don't put a quotation marks. So if we run this, it should print out the number that whole number equals to, because remember, whole number equals this, and if we're printing out whole number, then and whole number has a value, which is this, it should print out that value. In the chat, please, as you can see, it did print out 768176. So what happens if we change? All right, let's see what happens. So let's just put all right, so how do, it's just random, right? Exactly. So basically, all right, Samuel, yours has an error. Okay, so can you please post it in the chat? So as you can see, it did print out 768176. A variable is a variable. There's not a like a specific thing, like it has to be Jimmy John 36 or something. It can be whatever you want. So I was just putting it for the purpose of simplicity. So yeah. Okay, Samuel. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna, so okay, let me, okay,
Oh,
so this is,
you can go, continue.
This is an opportunity to do multi-line comments. So let's put a slash, then let's put a asterisk, and let's put an asterisk and a slash. This comments out this. You have to make sure that you do this, otherwise it's going to comment out this. And
wait, to answer Samuel's question, you don't have like a semicolon after like whole number is equal to 1. Yeah. So you need to put a semicolon.
Yeah, like remember what I said? The computer reads this, semicolon as basically saying it's a message to computer. Hey, this is the end of the statement. So yeah, that's the problem. You should do that and see how it works. So I'm just gonna give like maybe a minute for you guys to like just play around with, yeah. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. Hopefully you were able to do some things. If you weren't, you can post in the chat. And both my FTC is great and the other code is not working. It is not appearing on the black screen. All right, can you please post your code back in the chat? I think one of our members will help you with that. So I'm going to post the code I used in the chat. So if you're having problems, delete what you wrote and just put that in. So hopefully those issues get resolved. Now we're gonna go back to presentation. I'm just deleting it. Okay. So Arohi, the thing that's okay, so let me take your code and show everybody why it's not right. So basically you've put a space between this, all right? So that's the first problem. You have to make sure that there's not a space between the what do you call it? The system.out.println and FTC is great. As you can see, it did print it out. So that means, okay, so that means like, I think it was another, I think it's another part of your code then. Okay.
Variables don't have semicolons.
Yeah. Okay, so Arohi, I posted a code in the chat. Just try using that and tell me if it works. So I'm going to go on with the presentation. I'm gonna post the code again in the chat. So wait. Okay. I'll post it again for everybody who had problems with the thing. So here's the creating variables code. Just copy paste that. All right. So moving on. So now we're going to talk about if-then statements. So the if-then statement is the only basic control flow statement. It tells your program to execute a certain section of the code only if the particular test is true. For example, if you have a car, it could allow the brakes to decrease the car speed only if the car is in motion. So if the test is false, then control jumps to the next line of code, which will then be tested on the next and so on until there's a true statement or the code ends and nothing happens. So there's a second pathway of execution if the entire test is false. Using the car example, you could take some action if the brakes are applied when the car is not in motion. For example, you could print out a simple error message. Basically, if all tests are false, then some action will be undertook. To exemplify this, here's a picture of an if-then-else statement code I made and its output. So this is just a simple code to convert number grades into letter grades. So I put input 86, and since 86 is more than 80 and less than 90, it said it put B. So I'm not going to go too into this code, but I'll go into the actual format in the next slide. So here's the format for creating if-then-else statements. So you don't have to have a specific number of else-ifs. You can choose how many conditions you want. So the format is, first you have to assign your if variable. So this is the same thing as creating variables, which we've done, data type variable equals value. So this is the if part of your if-then statements. So what you're saying, whatever this value equals, it will go throughout, whatever this value equals, what this code will be based on. So in this example, we said int wobble goals equals 2. So wobble goals equals 2 in this example. Then we put a semicolon to end the statement off. So this is saying that wobble goals equals 2, and in these lines, it will be tested what wobble goals equals. So the next line is data type variable name semicolon. So this is assigning the then part of the statement. So basically this is saying if so in this example our then part is long total score. So basically this is saying if wobble goals equals something, then this then variable will equal something. So for example, in everyday terms, an if-then statement could be, if it is warm outside, then we will go outside to play. So let's go to the actual if, then else if, and the else part of the statement. So the first thing is saying if wobble goals equals 2, and then curly braces, total score will equal 30. So you can think of the curly braces kind of like the then, it's saying then. So what you could picture this as saying is if wobble goals equals 2, then total score will equal 30. So let's go to the next line. So it's saying else if variable for if name equals value, then variable for then name will equal value. So this is saying if this is not true, so if wobble goals doesn't equal 2 in this example, and wobble goals equals 1, then total score will not be 30. Instead, it will be 15. I forgot to mention this, but we put long in this example because these numbers are in Java longs. So then we use the curly braces to represent the then part. Then we have the last part of the code. So this is the else. This is saying if nothing else above is true. So this is false, wobble goals doesn't equal 2, wobble goals doesn't equal 1, and wobble goals here, we put something else than 2 or 1, then total score will automatically equal 0. So then we're going to close up this. So the last part of the code is the error message, or in this case, the result message. So this is optional, but if you want something to be printed out, obviously you're going to have to do this. So system.out.println, then you're going to put I put in parentheses total score equals blank plus total score. Basically what this says is whatever total score equals up here, whichever statement is true, then that will equal total score, and thus that will go here because it's saying in the space plus total score. So whatever's in total score will go in space. So let's go to REPL and do this for ourselves. So it's a rather long code. So I'm just gonna post this in the chat so you guys don't have to type out the entire thing. Let me check if I put the entire thing in the chat. Okay. So now let's copy paste it here. So on default I had put 2 here. So let's look at the code. If wobbles equals 2, so that's what it equals for now, then total score equals 30. And that should mean that it should say print out here total score equals 30, since that's what total score is. So let's run this code. So as you can see, it did say total score equals 30. So that means that this part of the code is working. So let's test the next line of code. So let's put 1. So this says if wobbles equals 1, which it does, then total score equals 15. So in here it should say total score equals 15. So let's click run. In the chat, put if you're having any troubles or you have any questions. Okay, so is it possible to make it generate a random number so the total score is one of the 3 values? Samuel, I don't understand your question. So Anna, what do you mean it didn't work? Like,
Yeah, so that's possible. So you can import like a random library, and you can
okay.
generate random values every time. So if you wanted like a number from 1 to 3, and you counted 1, 2, and 3, it could automatically generate a random number from 1. Like you could choose 2 first time, then 3 first time, the second time, and then 1 the last time. So it can run anytime it wants, and it will generate a random number. So yeah, that's possible.
It said this system.out.println. All right. Can you like send like a screenshot or something? Okay, wait. I think I might have. Wait, what just? I don't understand. Okay. Ishrit, can you help the people in the chat?
Yeah, I'm looking through the code.
Yeah, because the thing I copy pasted into the chat was the exact same thing I put in here. So maybe something happened with the other parts. I don't know. Okay, so okay. Wait, okay, let me click on the screenshot. Right. All right, so. Okay, wait, so 1 sec. Oh, wait, let me try something here. I think I figured. Okay, yeah, can you look at the screenshot? It's just, I can't really see anything wrong with it. All right, so I'm going to move on, but Ishrit will help you in the chat. Okay, Smith got it. All right, so we've tested this and this. So we proved.
Wait, don't copy like the entire output. From now on, guys, just copy paste your code, only your code, okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So like, what do you mean? Like, basically when you click here, like if you click here and you see this, there's a space, then click that. That's probably the problem. Okay, yeah, that was the problem. Okay, thanks, Meet, for figuring that out. Okay, so now we've tested the first two lines. So so now you can see if a statement is true, it will go to the next one and test that if that is true. So let's test the last line. So this is saying if wall goes doesn't equal 2 or it doesn't equal 1, then total score will equal 30. So let's put in something that's not 2 or 1. I'm gonna put in a random number. Okay, and now I'm gonna click run. Samuel, can you send a screenshot?
Wait, just copy paste your code. Only your code, don't copy paste.
We might also need the error, which it says. Because I think that's how I found the error for the other person.
It's loading. All right. As you can see, total score does equal 0. So this just goes to show that if there's a false statement, then it'll go to the next one and the next until there's a true statement. Then it will print out the last line. So so let's comment out this. So let's put in, and I'm gonna delete this just so it doesn't get any slow. So I'm gonna move on. Don't worry if you're having problems, you can always go back. So now we're gonna do arrays. Arrays are used to store a collection or list of data. With ints, doubles, and strings, you can only store one value. With arrays, you can store a list of values. Some everyday examples could be a list of movies, a shopping list, back to school checklist, etc. So this is an example of what an array kind of looks like. So it's like one long line and then divided into multiple sections. So let's go to the next slide. So you create an array using this format. So you say data type, so the type of data that the array will be, and then double brackets, variable name equals new data type, number of elements. So what this says is that it's going to be new. So we're creating a new array. Then it's going to be what type of data type is going to be in the array, and then number of elements. So this is saying how many elements or values, how many numbers essentially, or strings, how many values you want in your array. So if you wanted to have 3 boxes and you wanted to be all of the values doubles, then you would put double and then 2 brackets, decimal array equals new double, and then in brackets 2. So this would mean 3 boxes because Java and your computer will count the first box as 0. Why? Because again, as a wise man once said, Java's weird. All right, this is one of the things that Java just doesn't make sense, but it's there and you just gotta learn with it. So basically when we do this, it's going to have 0.0 3 times. This is because
this is not
going to have a default. Whenever you create an array, it's for int or a double array, all 3 values would be 0.0. So if you created a string array, it would be null or nothing. So nothing would be there. And if it was a Boolean array, which is true or false values, then it would only be false values. So obviously arrays are not going to do us any good if we can't change anything in the array, because then it's just going to be a bunch of 0.0s, nothings, or just falses. We can't really store anything, and that's useless. So to change in a value or element, you got to follow this format. So this is for accessing the array. So the first part is variable name index. So the variable name is the name of the array. So in this example, it'd be decimal array. Then we're going to put index. So index is the value's position. So the first box would be 0, second would be 1, and so on, because, you know, Java's just weird. That's pretty much a cliche for programmers at this point. So, and then you would change it to the value that you want your index to equal. So if the array was the one on the right, then the 3, because the 3 is the second box, which changed to 23.4, but it's not, and yeah, so just saying what would happen. So next slide. So remember, it's not going to print out anything unless we put system.out.println. So this is the same thing for printing out a variable. So you're going to just put system.out.println, then you're going to put the variable name. Same thing. So for example, if we use the one that was on the last slide, you're going to put system.out.println decimal array, then you're going to put a semicolon like usual. It will, with the array, print out some random numbers. So like, for example, might put like the left brace and D5, 4, whatever. Which is the memory location of the array in your computer. So you can also print out an individual value or element. So if you just want to print out one element in the array for some reason, then you can do system.out.println. Then you have to put the variable names. So the name of your array, so decimal array in this case. And let's say I want to access the second box. So I would put in brackets 1. We could print out every index, but loops are much more efficient for doing that. So before we go into loops, let's do arrays. So this is rather long, so I'm going to print this in the chat once I'm done typing it out. So first we got to create the array, right? So double. Then we're going to put the name of our array. So I'm going to say double array, maybe just to keep it simple. Then we're going to put new double. Then we can put 2 boxes. Let's keep it 3 boxes. Sorry, index 2. So now we got to print out all the boxes. So let's put system.out.println. And let's put double array and 0. So we can copy paste this code. One. So we don't print out the last box because it's going to show an error message. Remember, Java's weird. It's just going to happen. So now let's change the first box. So I'm going to say double array. I'm going to change the first box equals, I'm going to put 23.1. Then I'm going to print out the first box again because we changed it. And I'm going to put double array 0. And lastly, I'm going to print out the entire array. Oh, somebody entered the waiting room. Samuel, no, I'm going to put this in the chat because like I kind of memorized this. So I'm going to put it in the chat because it's like rather long.
Also try experimenting. Try to put your own code and see how that works.
So you can type out if you want to. So basically we've typed this out. Now let's check if there's any errors. Let's see. Okay, I don't personally see any errors, so let's just see if there's any errors in here. Samuel, it's okay if you're confused. Arrays are kind of a more advanced topic. All right, so I have an error message. So let's go back to our thing. Wait, Ishra, do you see what's wrong with this? Something?
Wait, let me check.
I don't see it. Maybe. Wait. Should I see what's wrong with this?
Yeah, wait, I'm looking at it. Oh.
To be on. Okay. So,
It cannot be converted to double.
Yeah,
It's
you,
only supposed to
that's
use
not what we
double.
call double. I think you have to call it long.
Yeah. Or an int.
Yeah, put it as int. That's the
Because it's an integer, you're using single I.
double is a
do you see what's wrong with this or something?
yeah, we're talking. Yeah.
Wait, can you hear us?
Like replace double with integer. Double with int, sorry.
Okay, sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties right now. Hold on a sec. Log in. Sorry guys, I'm having some technical difficulties. Hold on. Just a minute. Okay. Shoot. Okay. Okay, okay, I think, okay, so, sorry guys, I had some technical difficulties. Hold on a sec.
Can you hear now?
So, okay, so I got it to work. All right, so,
Arno, can you hear
as
now?
you can, okay, so let me type this in the chat. I had, so, that's what you're going to put in the thing. So, basically, as you can see that it printed out 0.0, 0.0, and 23.4. So we changed the first thing to 23.4. So, and this was the, so this is an array. So basically, this was what I was talking about when we put random numbers and letters. So this is the memory location of the array on my on my computer. So that's arrays in the chat. Does anybody have any trouble with arrays?
Hey, someone is asking what an array does.
So
basically
as
an
you
array
said, Samuel,
stores
let's
like
go back to
values.
this presentation. So an array is used to store a collection or list of data. So basically you can think of arrays as a longer version of variables. So basically, remember, in variables we could, and within stubbles and strings, we could only like store one value. We couldn't store more. So arrays are for storing more than one values instead of just one. So it's very useful if you want to store large amounts of data. So let's go to the next part of the presentation. Is anybody having any trouble? So Arohi, try putting this code into the thing. So I'm gonna move on to loops. So a for loop is a repetition control structure. What? Okay.
Wait, can you hear us now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Nobody was talking. Was I like speaking over you guys?
No. Like I don't think your audio was working before. It's fine.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. My screen just like froze in the middle of the thing, so I had to like restart. That's why I had to stop sharing. All right, so
You're muted.
shoot. So a for loop is a repetition control structure that allows you to efficiently write a loop that needs to be executed a specific number of times. So a for loop is useful when you know how many times a task is to be repeated. So the format for a for loop is for initial, semicolon condition, semicolon change, and then semicolon. So for example, we could put for in I equals 0, semicolon I is less than 11, semicolon I equals I plus 1. So the example above says that variable I starts at 0 and increases by 1 until it hits 10. When it hits 10, it will exit the loop. So now you have to print it out. You have to use a special curly brace to print it out. So let's go do that. So I'm going to delete this part of the code. So we're going to put the initial first. So we're going to put int I equals 0. Then we're going to put I is less than 11. Then we're going to put I equals I plus 1. Now remember, it's not going to print it out if you don't put system.out.println. So with for loops, since Java's weird, as we all know, you have to use a curly brace, and you got to put system.out.println, and in there we're going to put I. Yeah, you can do negative numbers, yes. So make sure not to put a semicolon after this, because loops don't have semicolons. So this is what was the code printed out. So remember, the conditions we put were the things we put were I equals 0. So this is the initial. So the first number is indeed 0. Then we said I can't be more than 11. So as you can see, no number here is more than 11 or above. And then we said I had to equal I equals I plus 1. So I had to increase by 1 until it hit and 10, then exited the loop. And as you can see, it did do that. So does anybody have any questions before we move on to inheritance code? When did this end? If you have to go, you can go.